Welcome, folks. This is Stacy Niblo, your Gale trainer. Glad to be with you virtually this afternoon to take a look at the new Gale resources coming to you from TexShare. We are going to give you, of course, an overview of each of the new resources, Opposing Viewpoints and Context in Chilton Library, and dive in and give you a live demonstration of both, share some best practices, show off the resources a bit. We're also going to share where you can find support for each, getting your access set up, things like that. Feel free to, have me go down another path as well. If there's something else you'd like covered this afternoon, do let me know through the chat or the questions tool there over on the right. So I think we're ready to dive in. And again, interrupt anytime with questions or feedback within our webinar tools. So first up, we want to show you where you can get support for these two new resources, as well as all your existing Gale resources that come to you through TexShare. And we've set up a specific support site for that purpose. You can get your access URLs if you aren't already linking to the two new TexShare resources from Gale. You're going to be able to get your access URL at www.galesupport.com/TexShare. You'll also find database icons, support materials. The training materials should be added there shortly, as well as some other tools. So we're going to go out briefly and take a look at that site so I can show you where to find your access URLs. That's kind of been the most important question lately. So from the Gale TexShare support site, you'll see it's actually the very first item on the page, the first icon here, links, URLs, Gale pages, and so on. Kind of all the tech information lives right there. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Now, the first thing it needs to find is your library. Everybody has unique URLs to access the databases, and we identify you by your library. So if I am with the Fort Worth Public Library, or, oh, whoops, I've typed a little too much there, I can select, and it's going to generate the URLs for all of my TexShare databases from Gale, as well as share what my location ID is, which you may need for other things as well. So that's always a good little bit of code to have available. So these URLs will get you directly into the resources, and nice easy way for you to put yourselves or of course your users into them. So that's really what I wanted to show you on the support site. Again, feel free to ask questions if there's something else you'd like to see there, but that's kind of the most important thing. We want to make sure you've got your access set up to these two new resources. All right, now let's get on to those resources. So the first one we're going to talk about is Opposing Viewpoints in Context. This is a database that Gale has put out for several years. It's probably our most popular database at Gale. It's based on a print series we publish called Opposing Viewpoints, so you may be familiar with that. Opposing Viewpoints in Context takes a look at all the various arguments within issues facing our world today. It has current content, and you'll find it's a great place, kind of a safe place to do research into these issues that are debated and discussed on the news, online, on our friends' Facebook pages. This is a great place to get facts, develop your own opinion, try to see things from another point of view. Within Opposing Viewpoints and Context, you have, of course, these viewpoint essays, but there's also a lot of reference content. There's current periodicals, there's multimedia that can help round out the issue and also look at the history behind it. So we are going to dive into it. It is one of the databases that uses kind of our standard in context interface. So we hope you'll be the best judges, but we hope that it's very easy to navigate and find what you need. So I'll be showing off some of the tools you can expect to find within the resource, as well as highlighting the content as we go through. So to get us started, I thought we might find a reason for the library, maybe using Opposing Viewpoints in Context. Certainly, it's always going to be a great tool for support for kids coming into the library doing homework, for, classroom tools in your academic institution, and just, maybe researching what you're hearing on the news. But I thought we might take a look. There's been a lot of discussion over the last couple years about emotional support animals, and libraries are trying to decide how to handle those as well. So let's see what opposing viewpoints and context can do for us. So I have gone ahead and logged in to opposing viewpoints and context already. And before I start searching, I want to just talk a little bit about what we have here on the home page. The home page is intended to give the user kind of a little information about what they're using, as well as engage them. So the home page always, in our databases, will always have a search up here in the banner that's going to follow us as we go through the database. So you can just dive right in with whatever you're looking for. You also have the ability to kind of browse around. And I like this, browsing in the library is important. You go to the shelf and you find the book you wanted and you pick up 2 or 3 others because they look good as well. We're going to do some electronic browsing today with opposing viewpoints and context. This shows off some of the topics that are available in the database. It also, though, informs the user that this is the type of content they can expect to find. So it's informative as well. And what's behind each of the items listed here on this page, and then many more, are actually let me go into say cloud computing, a home page for that topic. So with our in-context databases, we've kind of created this topic page, these topic pages for popular issues or well-studied issues in the database. And it's a good jumping off point when you're starting your research. It's also a good place to get familiar with your topics. So because right off the bat, we share with you what cloud computing is. So if it's not a topic you're that familiar with, right away you get an overview essay, just the beginning of it here, and then you can click in to read more. That's unbiased, just kind of telling us what cloud computing is. But then you'll notice we get a little hint over here to the right. The on this page section gives us an idea. If we scroll down a bit, we're going to see a lot more content. And of course, first up, the content that opposing viewpoints and context is so known for, the viewpoint essays. So we're going to be spending a lot of time on those, so I'm going to come back there. We also, though, again, have other types of data here. So Gale's a publisher. We've got a lot of our own reference content here. We have statistics from some of our sources. We have a lot of multimedia content, mostly coming from news organizations. We have magazines, academic journals, news articles, recommended websites, and then depending on your topic, maybe primary sources and the like. So lots of different types of sources all in one place, kind of a one-stop shopping. You'll also find down at the bottom of the page, it can point you to other sources within the database as well on related topics. So again, this browsability is important in the resources. We want to show folks around and maybe lead them to other paths, other topics as needed. Okay, so these pages, we call them portal pages, we call them topic pages, lots of different names for them. You actually can get a list of all these pages that we've created here in the upper left-hand corner in the bottom bar of the browser, or sorry, not browser, the banner. You'll see there's a browse issues link. And what this will do is show you all of the issue pages, topic pages, portal pages that we've created. This is also, again, a good way to just kind of get an idea of the scope of the database. We're talking about social issues, hot button issues, the types of things we hear on the news, and again, on our friends' Facebook pages. So you can get an idea of the coverage that's here. And you'll notice we've got little notes if something has been recently updated. Now, technically, the database is updated every day. We add new news articles, magazines, journals, those go in every day. But the updated note, we only include when we've updated a significant portion of the reference, the viewpoints, those types of things. So you'll see a note for that. You'll also see a new tag for new items, and there we can see our service and emotional support animals. So again, this is something that's been coming up. We created a portal page for it. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, the portal page, again, has that similar layout that we just saw for cloud computing. So right off the bat, we get an overview essay on the topic. But we're looking for opinions, usually, when we're in opposing viewpoints and context. So let's take a look at these viewpoint essays. So you'll notice that we have a featured viewpoints and a viewpoints content bucket, we call them. And the feature viewpoints are something our editors have hand selected and included there. And if we pop in, you can see each of the essays are labeled as to, or I shouldn't say labeled, titled, giving you the opinion of what their author is thinking. Okay, so those have been hand selected. Some of them are coming from our opposing viewpoint series. Some could come from at issues. We have a few different series that do this. We also, though, in featured viewpoints, pull other articles. So you can see some things coming from current periodicals as well. These, again, are hand selected by our editors. So if you just want to kind of point to one source, I shouldn't say source, one content bucket, the featured viewpoints might be a good place to get started. The viewpoints content bucket here, or content type, is pulling all of the viewpoint essays from our viewpoint series. So again, opposing viewpoints, at issues, current controversies, and the like. We pull from those sources, as well as anything that may have been added to the database and then is going to come later in one of our print series. So again, each of the viewpoints tell you right at the results here what the opinion of the author is. And we do that because you may notice we don't label them pro or con or opinion A, opinion B. It's all about critical thinking in this database. So, you know, the user can see what the opinion of the author is, but we don't want to kind of handhold them. And not every issue breaks down into an easy pro-con type approach. So we'll see more of those as we come into the database. So if we go ahead and jump into an entry, you'll see each article starts with this article commentary, and we've got it on a different background. You can see it's highlighted in blue here because we want it to jump out at the user. What we've done with opposing viewpoints in context, and again, the print series that are making it up, is rather than have our editors just write us an article with an opinion in it, we went out and looked for people who are already writing on the topic, are knowledgeable on the topic, and got permission to republish their essays or articles. It is important that we're getting content from folks who know what they're talking about. We don't just want kind of a standard article that was written expressly for a viewpoint opinion. So that's what the article commentary is introducing you to, this person who wrote the article, and then it also, to jumpstart critical thinking in our readers, as you read, consider the following questions. So we want to think critically about these issues. We're reading someone else's opinion to help develop our own or make our own argument. These questions are going to help us do that. And you can see at the bottom of every article, we show our source citation. And this isn't unusual. We do it in all of our Gale resources. So great way for people to be able to just copy and paste and say include in their bibliography. But what I like to point out about these is you see where they originally were published first and what the original title was. We changed those titles so that the opinion is clearly stated in the title for our results list. But you can see what the original title was, where it originally appeared. So you get a couple levels of citation here with the viewpoint essays. So we've got several opinions on this issue, looking at the viewpoints and the featured viewpoints. But if we go out, remember, we've also got lots of other content. So certainly this has been a topic that's been in the news, especially over the last few months or so. There have been some bigger stories around folks bringing, a lot of them I read about because I travel all the time, having to do with bringing animals on planes and things like that. So got lots of news articles, academic journals into the study as well. So we've got a lot of content to help round out an argument if that's what you're trying to make. But then also, again, as I mentioned, the library could use this, the reference content, those journals, the magazines and news and such to help make up their own policy, see what other people are doing. So kind of an interesting topic here. Now, of course, we're going to have the classics as well. And that's one of the things I always like to show off in opposing viewpoints in context. You know, the death penalty has been, you know, a topic for debate since way back when I was in school. We did a mock debate about it. I know it's still around. So I wanted to show you what we do with those topics as well. So you'll notice, let me point out, I'm just going to circle it here to kind of call it out. And this is a more traditional results screen. It hasn't taken us directly to a portal page, but I wanted to point out the viewpoint essays. There are 183. And I know that number's high, but what I want to point out about it, if we jump in, you'll see one of the things we do in our databases is sort by relevance. Now, that's pushing very relevant articles up to the top of my results list. But you'll notice some of them are a little older, 2002, 2015, 2005, pardon me, and so on. One of the interesting things about opposing viewpoints in context is this is a topic that we've covered several times in our series. And in other databases, what we do is cycle out. We take out the old edition and put in the new. In opposing viewpoints in context, we keep the older editions. Laws change, public opinion changes, and we want the viewpoint essays to reflect how that has happened throughout time. So it's an interesting way to look at a topic. And again, you know, a lot of these issues can break down into kind of a pro-con, but one of the other great things about opposing viewpoints in context is it is uncovering the gray within these topics. So, you know, certainly there are going to be essays where it's looking at the death penalty from yes, we should have it, no, we shouldn't have it. But then it also takes a look at, well, maybe it's okay, but only certain types. Or how do we handle it for this type of population and that type of thing. So it really opens up the discussion on the topic and digs much deeper than a strictly pro-con point of view. So the viewpoint essays really uncover things like that. And that's why, again, let me just go back to browse issues here for a second. You're going to find a lot of issues in here that right off the bat, you may not think, well, what's debatable about that, like that. So for example, it's just alphabetical order here. Let me find it. Scrolling down, endangered species. So nobody's for endangered species, but there are issues within it. So if we take a look at those viewpoints that it offers, you kind of uncover the discussion within endangered species. So how exactly to combat this problem? Are we spending too much money on it? That type of thing. So you have these issues where maybe right off the bat, you don't kind of know what the argument might be, but then as you get into the viewpoints, you can see how it changes. So I mentioned, though, the dates. Let me go back and cover something I meant to mention when we were looking through those results. So we do sort by relevance, but you can change that. So if I had, say I was looking at those death penalty results, I could sort instead by date if that were important. I can choose to sort by newest and push those articles that are more recently published right to the top of my list. So you always have that option. I'm just going to take a quick pause here, make sure I haven't missed anything in the questions or chat. Not so far, but feel free to send them on in. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm just going to jump into one of these entries, talk a little bit more about what you can do with this content. So again, here's another essay. There's that article commentary getting highlighted, and then the actual article itself. Now, you have a lot of tools, a lot of things you can do with the articles you find in Gale databases. So if you've been using, some of them, these will be a little bit of a repeat, but I do want to highlight them, a couple that I think will come in really handy. So probably the most popular feature I touched on briefly before, the source citation we have there at the bottom of the page. Now that is an MLA style citation. So if I'm writing a paper and I'm turning this into my professor and they use MLA style, then I am good to go. I can copy and paste that right into my bibliography. However, let's say my professor likes APA. Well, then I have the citation tools here in our tools menu, the very first button, because again, it is the most popular one. So the citation tools will let me change this. Say I need APA, I can switch right over to APA. Say I need Chicago, I can select and copy it right into my bibliography. Or a lot of our academic institutions have tools like ProCite and things like that, you can export your citations out to ProCite, EasyBib, EndNote, all of these items. We're going to talk about the Google and OneDrive options in a minute, but we work with those tools and you can just export the content right out. We're also Zotero compliant, so if you have that add-on added to your browser, you can take advantage of Zotero as well. So every article is going to have that feature, regardless of whether you're in a Viewpoint essay or a newspaper article. You also have the ability to mark up the content you find. So back when I was in school, I printed out everything or made photocopies, and then I would go through with a highlighter marker and mark up the article and make notes in the margins. You can actually do that within the database. You click and drag as if you're going to copy, and when you're done, pops open the highlights and notes bar. Now, if I were on a touch screen, I would just touch the first word and the last word on the screen, and it would highlight what's within those sets. So highlight, I can use whatever color marker I like here. Maybe I'm going to use yellow for notes I want to check. So I want to look up the Endangered Species Act of 1973, so I'm highlighting this. Make sure to click Save. And you can continue to mark up the article throughout your reading of it. Add other notes. You can just continue to mark up the article. Now, this isn't enough. I've marked it up, but what do I do now? This highlights and notes feature is session dependent. So if I close my browser right now, it's going to close out the database and those highlights and notes are gone. Okay? I need to take them with me before I leave. And I do that the same way you do in any database. You use what we call the retrieval tools. Let me use my little highlighter here. Send to Google Drive or OneDrive, print, email, or download. All of those are going to take the article and your highlights and notes. Google Drive has become far and away the most popular option, so I'm going to use that as my example. So you want to be logged into your Google account. If you're not, it would just prompt you to log in right here. I've gone ahead and done that just to save us a little time. And we get a confirmation it was sent to Google Drive. Well, let's go find it. Now, what we do, and this happens automatically, the user doesn't have to do anything, is we create a folder named after the database you were using. So opposing viewpoints and context happens automatically. And then we take the article and we turn it into a Google Doc. Now, if I'd done this in Microsoft OneDrive, we'd turn it into a Word Online document. And there's our article. It's pulled over all of the commentary, of course. And there are my highlights. I can see it even use the colors that I indicated in the database. And at the bottom, we can see it pulled over the source citation. And it's reprinted the highlights and included my notes. This will all happen the same if you print or email as well. Your highlights and notes just appear at the bottom. The great thing, though, about having this in Google Drive is now it's available to me anytime, anywhere, from any device. It lives in the cloud now. I can use all of Google's capabilities here. I can edit this document. I can change the format. I can share it, whatever you'd normally do with a Google Doc. There's no digital rights management here, so it's not going to disappear from my Google Drive in a week or two. It's going to be there until I choose to delete it. I can move it around. If I want to move this to my endangered species folder, I can do that. Once it's here, it's yours to do with as you like. So, great way to keep track of your content, and it's a tool that really fits into our users' workflow. These are things they're already using, so why not make our databases part of their workflow as well. So you'll see that option for every article. And of course, we've got the old standbys too, printing and emailing. If folks prefer that, they're going to get their highlights and notes that way too. Now, a couple tools to help you reach more users. You'll notice we have a listen button. Now, unfortunately, you can't hear it on the other end of the webinar, but I'll have you trust me, it's going to be going in my headphones. But it's going to read the article to you. It starts with the title. You can see it's highlighting as it's reading. I'm going to go ahead and pause it so it's not talking to me. And it's going to read the entire article. What I like about it versus, say, a screen reader is it's not trying to read everything on the page. It reads just the title of the article, then starts with the article. So really handy. There are some tools you can use within it to make it set the way the settings the way you like. So great way to reach folks who are maybe more auditory learners than visual, than readers, folks with, of course, vision issues. It's a great tool. You also have an on-demand language translation. This article and any of the articles in Opposing Viewpoints in Context can be translated into almost 40 languages here. And it is a machine translation, and you'll get that note at the top. But it's a great way, again, to reach more users. So if they really struggle with English and we have their native language, it's a great way for them to absorb the information. And you notice the listen button has stuck around, so I could actually hear this in Spanish too. So lots of languages to choose from there. We added about 20 or 25 new ones just in the last few months. So we love to hear feedback on this. What other languages you might like to see? Feel free to let us know. So every article is going to have these tools. You can take advantage of them wherever you like in the resource. A couple more tools, and then we're going to move on to Chilton Library. So let's say we are discussing climate change. And I'll say, for example, at a public library, maybe we're having a program around it. And we want to help inform folks and maybe even share information with folks who aren't able to attend. So big topic, it's a big topic of discussion around with different issues within it. Let's say we want to give folks a look at what the database can do for them around it. So there's, of course, lots of good stuff for us here on this portal page. And again, I mentioned it's a great jumping off point for folks to get more familiar with a topic. Well, let's say I want to put folks right here on the global warming and climate change topic page. That is easy to do with Gale's bookmark feature. This bookmark button in the upper right-hand corner is going to give you a persistent URL or PURL that you can copy and paste right into a tweet from the library's account, onto a link in a LibGuide. Wherever you would normally put a URL, these bookmark URLs can go. And what makes them special, one, is that they are persistent. So they'll always bring you back to the same place. You'll always land on this global warming and climate change page. Right? Now, that doesn't sound that unique. A lot of URLs do that. What takes this a step further is the bookmark URL jumps over authentication. So when you click on a link that is a bookmark link, it doesn't stop and ask you for your library card number or your student ID number or anything like that. It's just going to let you into Opposing Viewpoints in Context and take you to the global warming and climate change page. Now, it doesn't let you into the rest of the database. It doesn't just completely open up the database. It only takes you to the content that was linked to. So this can be a great tool for reserved reading as well. If professors have articles they want students to read for class, or again, thinking about your LibGuides, you don't have to link to just the portal pages. Individual articles are available for linking as well. And you'll see, as you go into all of them, there's that bookmark up in the upper right-hand corner. Gives you the persistent URL. So this is a great way to draw people into the database, to discover opposing viewpoints in context, but also a way for you to kind of put content into the classroom at your academic institution. Again, for the library to tweet about and maybe bring folks into the library virtually to show off these resources. So the bookmark is a really great way to raise usage and awareness of the resource. And again, because of the content that Opposing Viewpoints in Context covers, again, it's certainly helpful for college students, high school students using the library, the public library for homework help, but I think it's a great tool for adults as well. You know, it's always good to be informed about an issue you feel passionately about. It's good to try and understand the other side of someone's arguments. This database can do that. The other thing I like about it is it gets behind the issue. You know, certainly you can see what's being discussed today, but you get the background on these issues too. So how do we get where we are with this? So excellent resource. I think your users will find it really helpful. And again, it is one of the most popular databases we produce at Gale. So we're thrilled that you're able to access it via TexShare. So that is a look at opposing viewpoints in context. Again, use the questions or chat tool if you'd like to send me any questions or anything else you'd like me to click here. But I think we're ready to take a look at your other new resource as well. So let me give you a, oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, let me just mention, we also offer an opposing viewpoints in context Chrome extension. So this is for users who are using Chrome as their browser. You can install the opposing viewpoints in context extension from the Google Chrome store. And what it will do, you can see the big arrow pointing at it there, is will integrate results from opposing viewpoints in context on your Google search results page. Now, there is some setup involved. It does need to kind of identify your library. And we have help files. I'll send that in my follow-up email around how to set this up. And there are even ways to install it kind of across your organization. So if Chrome is a popular browser at your institution and say you want the Chrome extension on all of the library computers, there are ways to do that, and we've got help for you to do that. So it does involve a little setup. We won't look at it today. If there's interest, we can certainly host a webinar all about the Chrome extension, but it's a great way to promote library resources alongside folks who are already using Google. So really neat feature. Okay, so on to ChiltonLibrary. So when I was at the public library at the reference desk, we could not keep the Chilton manuals on the shelf. They were, of course, big, thick books with tissue-thin paper. They didn't always come back in the best shape because maybe folks are, you know, laying down in their driveway trying to get underneath their car and read the Chilton manual at the same time. So they were a tough tool to keep on the shelf in the library. Now you have access to all of this do-it-yourself help from Chilton's for your own repair and maintenance of your vehicle. And it's super simple to use. We're going to take a look at it. But basically, you pick your car, and then it walks you through the repair manual, the maintenance schedules, the bulletins and recalls, should it have any. There's even test prep for the ASE test. So if anyone is pursuing the car repair as a career, there's test prep they can do in the database as well. So this is a great resource, you know, for those folks who want to save themselves a little money, do their own repair, or, you know, just for the car enthusiast who likes to work on their own vehicle. It is mobile responsive. So if they've, you know, brought it up on their iPad while they're in the garage trying to replace their battery or something like that, they've got a nice, easy resource to use. So it's updated frequently, adding new cars all the time. And of course, that's important for the bulletins and recalls as well. So very current resource. Let's go ahead and take a look. So let me just log in here. So this is going to have a different look and feel. You know, opposing viewpoints in context is kind of a research database. ChiltonLibrary is really a user-built tool for them to find help and tutorials on tools here. So the first thing you've got to do is pick your vehicle. Everything hinges on that. And you just use the vehicle selector tool that appears here on the home page, and then you'll see there's a banner that follows us through ChiltonLibrary. So you can always come back and select a new vehicle right from the banner there. So we choose our year. And in this case, let's say we're looking for a 2008 Ford Explorer. And every choice you make kind of filters the list below. So we only show the vehicles that we have, or the makes that we have for 2008 vehicles, which is a lot of them. And then again, just narrows down, so we need to choose our model. And that's it. Click select. And it's going to show whatever we have for the vehicle. So mostly you will find, for all of the vehicles, you're going to find a repair manual. And for most of them, you'll find maintenance schedules as well. As we start looking at the much older cars, say the ones from the 50s and the like, some of that stuff isn't available. But the repair manual is really what this resource is about. So they're all going to have the repair manual. The bulletins and recalls, again, if it's from the 50s, that may not be available, but shows you what we have for your vehicle. I'm just going to quickly, we're going to focus on the repair manual, so let me quickly jump into the other tools so you can see what you can expect to find. So the maintenance schedule is available, but you do have to kind of narrow down your vehicle type. So we just do that the same way we do with the vehicle itself. But I'm going to kind of move on to the other tools. Something they added a few years ago is the labor estimator. So this is a really handy way for you to, I'm just going to switch to one of the browsable tools here so we can bring up a list. But this is a great way for you to go into, if you are going to a repair shop, maybe it's not something you feel like you can fix yourself or want to attempt, and have an idea what the estimated labor hours may be. So they show you for both the dealer and say if you go to a regular repair shop. So this is, good to have some information when you go in to a repair shop, have a little knowledge beforehand, or at least then can kind of estimate what you might be paying once you know their hourly rate. So the bulletins and recalls is also filterable. So it shows you all of them to start, and then you can narrow down. So if you, suspect there's something going on with your HVAC system, you can open that up and see recalls relating to HVAC. You can also do it by symptom, which is handy. And should you have one of those code readers, you can search by the trouble codes too. But again, this database is kind of all about the repair manual. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, the repair manuals, again, are specifically written for do-it-yourselfers. So what you start out with is basically the top of the table of contents. So we're starting out here and just have to choose the area of the vehicle we're interested in. So say we want to change our oil. So we go under engine mechanical. And then it pops open. And so you can see it not quite filtering, but narrows down the table of contents. You kind of keep moving down levels. So engine oil and filter change. And say we're looking for a basic oil and filter change. And we have a 4.6 liter engine. And there we go. You'll find quite a bit of the manual is illustrated in some way, whether it's a photograph or an actual illustration. It will vary, but that's of course good. You can, make sure you're looking at the right thing. Lots of caution notes around what you're doing with the vehicle. And again, heavily illustrated. You'll find videos as well, and in some cases, animations. So lots of help here for maintaining our vehicle. Now, you also will find, let me scroll back up. You're within the whole manual, so you can, kind of follow the breadcrumb trail here of where we got where we are to get back to the rest of the entire manual. But there's also a search tool. So if you're, I'm not a car person, so say I need to do something with the tires, I can search the manual and it will bring up the sections where that terms is mentioned. So it gives me section titles, but then also where it appears in the text. So I can jump to those sections. So go to diagnosis and testing. But as you can see, again, everything just hinges on your vehicle, and then it's a very point and click type tool. So you work with the manual almost like you would with the print, using a table of contents, but of course that search feature is something really handy and something you wouldn't have in the book. So hopefully a pretty easy resource to pick up. It's a great one, of course, to reach out and let folks know you have. Certainly if you have folks who come in looking for the print versions, you're definitely going to want to share this this resource. But it's also a good database. You know, right now, and when the weather's nice here in Buffalo, New York, where I live, there are several places around that have a car cruise night, and might be good to go to the library, maybe share or go to the car cruise night from the library and hand out some bookmarks or something, letting folks know about Chilton being available. Because again, for things like classic cars, you'll see if we look at that year drop box, this goes back pretty far. So we can pull, say, 1951 and take a look at Chevy, see what we've got here. So, you know, folks may be able to, you know, work on the restorations. So just use that select vehicle tool. You can see it. Let's see, how far back do we go? So it looks like 1940. So let's see what's available here. So great resource. All right, so let's wrap up and let you know where you can go after today when you need help. Okay. Oh, there was the example. Sorry, folks, I forgot to show this. So we looked up our 2008 Ford Explorer. So again, send in any questions you may have or anything else you'd like to see. But after today, where do you go for help? When you start using these resources more, when school goes back in session and you're looking for help, there are lots of places you can go at Gale. Of course, you've got great support at TexShare, so call on them as well. I'm your trainer. Feel free to get in touch with me. Lots of good stuff on our support site for the databases, tutorials, resource guides. Can sign up for other webinars. Of course, lots of tech help there too. The general support site has lots of good information. We're getting ready to link some of it from the TexShare specific support site too. And then a good person to be aware of at Gale is your customer success manager. This is someone at Gale who is dedicated to your success with the resources. You have a team basically at Gale backing you up, and your customer success manager is just one of those folks, and they're a good person to go to when you're not sure where else to go to. But they can help you with ideas around promoting the resources. If you're at, say, an academic institution and you want to integrate the databases into your discovery system, or maybe use a proxy server for authentication and you need help with that. Again, if you're in a public library, how do you get folks using these resources? They can help with ideas along those lines. So if you reach out to this email address, they'll route it to your customer success manager, who do specialize by library type and location. So they're going to be familiar with Texas, they're going to be familiar with TexShare, and they're going to be familiar with your library type. So if you're an academic institution, you work with one of our academic CSMs. If you're in a public, you work with one of the public CSMs. And then, of course, our tech support's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you have trouble accessing the resources, you have questions about the bookmark, anything like that, reach out to Gale Tech Support, and they're there for you as well. So lots of great support for you at Gale and at TexShare. Don't suffer in silence. We want to hear from you when you need us. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover with you all today. I'm going to stick around and leave the webinar open and see if any questions come up. But if you're all set, thanks for tuning in today, and hope to catch you on another session down the road. Have a great rest of the week.